Hello and welcome to today's lesson where we're going to be concentrating on an inspector calls for component 3, and we are going to be focusing on the two questions that are concerning set. So we're going to start off with a starter activity where you're exploring the setting of an inspector calls. So these quotes are stage directions from the opening of Act 1. So remember, stage directions are instructions. They are not to be said by the actors. So I'll just read them to you. The dining room of a fairly large suburban house. Small table with telephone on it. It has good solid furniture. The lighting should be pink and intimate until the inspector arrives. Champagne glasses, decanter of port, cigar box. The table which has no cloth. I want you to think about and send to me, what do these quotes suggest about the house and the family who live there? Obviously, J.B. Priestley, who wrote it, had a very clear vision of how he wanted this to look on the stage. So what did he actually want to get across? So if you could pause the video and just write some notes for that starter activity, please. And then we're just going to move on to looking at the exam paper and a set of questions from 2019. So if I just go to, I've got the 2019 exam paper here, which I will include as part of this pack online or on the written tasks. So you will see the format of the questions will always look the same. So this question here is about you're asked to play one of the characters. Here, you're asked to play one of the characters and explain what you do as a performer. And then this first question here, you're asked to be a director and you'll be asked to choose between costume, props and lighting, or, and if you go further down, sound, staging or set. So whichever goes on that question, it won't be on this question and vice versa. So there's two questions where you might be asked about set. One of them asks you to answer as a director. So as a director, discuss how you would use one of these production elements to bring the extract to life for your audience. And then on the 14 marker, the big one, it says, now you are one of the designers. Okay, it's how would you use the design elements below to enhance the production? So it's really clear that you remember that you're answering as a designer or as a director, okay? So the director has the overall vision, and obviously the set designer then works out all the details. So I'm just going to go through how you would perhaps tackle these questions. So first off, you need to have in your mind what type of stage you would want this play to be performed on. So is it in the round? Where the audience is all around, where the action is taking place? Is it traverse, where you've got the audience on two sides? Thrust, where the audience is on three sides? A proscenium arch stage, a traditional type of stage, so for example the Grand Theatre, or end on similar to what we have in the drama studio, where we don't have anywhere to escape on stage. So knowing that is important. The second thing you need to make a decision on is, would you like your set to be naturalistic or non-naturalistic? So naturalistic meaning it looks like real life, so it's set in 1912. So would you have it as 1912 realistic life as possible? Or would you have it non-naturalistic, which is perhaps more symbolic? We've discussed before, you could have things maybe on different angles or different colours, maybe things change during the actual play to show how people's attitudes have changed. So that would be entirely up to you. So I can't tell you what to write in this exam because a lot of this is going to be your imagination. So really, there can't be a wrong answer as long as you can justify what you're saying. So things I'm going to show you now, I've got out of the Designing Drama book, which hopefully we'll be able to have a copy of each very, very soon. But I did want to take some things out of there because they're very important. So from this, it says for you to do some research first. So the first thing you need to research is the setting. Well, we know it's in 1912. We know it takes place in a family home in the evening. And we need to think about the theme, the context, and the atmosphere that you're trying to create. So I'm going to ask you to pause this for a second and just read through it. And the second part of context, mood, and atmosphere. So in this, it gives you some examples of how you could have the set design. Now, another element that we need to think about is levels. Is perhaps you'd have levels for different parts of the stage. Maybe that would be linked in to status. Maybe you'd use blocks. Maybe you'd actually have things built. So how could you perhaps use levels to get across the themes, get across the characters? You pause the video and give that a read. Again, this is about levels. How high are the levels? Why we use levels? I need to think about what the audience can see as well. And obviously the use of levels will link into the type of stage that you've decided on. I want to show you this picture, which is from an actual production of an Inspector Calls. And they actually had, I think we've looked at this before now, a raised area in the middle of the stage where the Birling family was sat. And then around the outside, obviously, you can see it's very grey, there's a contrast. So really do think outside the box for your examples. Now I'm going to look at an example question now. So you need to practice doing exam questions. And as it says on here, potential risk in any exam is running out of time. And there are only 5 questions on an Inspector Calls, but the last one is 14 marks. There's a lot of points to get across there. So the example question we're going to look at is as the director. So it's the first one, it's the 9 marker. So as a director, discuss how you would use one of the production elements below to bring the extract to life for your audience. You should make reference to the context in which the text was created and performed. Choose one of the following: costume, sound, set. So I'm going to choose set and I'm going to read to you an example answer. The original performance style was naturalistic. So it's obviously referring then back to the original performance. Whereas I would include non-naturalistic features in my set design. As with the original production, I would use Edwardian details such as a period telephone and heavy dark wooden furniture. The set would be for an end-on configuration and would have a very strong echo of 1945, despite being set in 1912. Links to context. This could be achieved by showing more than the Birlings' dining room. I would have a gauze curtain hanging from the front edge of the dining room, continuing to downstage right. It would be painted with a scene of war devastation. Lighting would highlight the necessary parts of the set, including the area behind the gauze as needed. This is one way in which I would keep the context of the play alive for the audience. At the start of the extract, the gauze curtain would show the painted image. This would focus the audience onto the dining room area, where the set design uses stiff, dark, expensive looking wall and floor coverings, with plenty of gilt and glass in the furnishings. I would want the audience to be very aware of the contrast between wealth and poverty. At the point where the inspector says, "She went to your mother's committee for help, your mother refused to help," an image would be seen through the gauze. This would depict a visibly pregnant young woman dressed in a poor 1940s outfit, and other women whose gestures show that they need support. Also in the image, the audience would see a woman whose clothes and bearings suggest Mrs. Birling on a raised platform, with her head turned away from the other women. I would use set in this way to highlight the plight of either and all those in need after the war. The emotions of the Birling family have reached great heights by the moment the inspector starts his speech, beginning "Stop." If possible, I would use hydraulics to shake the dining room part of the set slightly. This would make real for the audience the possibility that the wealthy of 1945 were in danger of losing their stability. This would last for only 4 seconds and then fade. It is at precisely this moment, when the family are suddenly quiet, staring at him, the inspector would step onto the platform in the dining room and slowly turn to face them, building tension. At the very end of the extract, as the inspector orders the family to remember that never forget it, he would still be standing on the platform. The girls would gradually reveal a cluster of poor people, some of whom carrying shabby suitcases. As a director, I would guide the thoughts and emotions of the audience, reminding them of the context and what is at stake. So if you think that's answering from a director's point of view, it's really getting across what J.B. Priestley really wanted the audience to think about, okay, and the context. So then the other question is answering it from a designer's point of view, and it is the 14 marker, which is the biggest one. Now, we will have a go answering the exam questions backwards, forwards, and seeing which ones work for you. For some people, it works out better than getting the 14 marker out of the way, so they feel less stress for the rest of the paper. So you can see another example of set there. So thinking of as a set designer. So you don't know in advance what extract you'll be given, but you'll know which play it's from. So we can pretty much have an answer ready, rehearsed, revised for you to choose that you would answer it on set, which I am definitely going to get us to do and to revise. When you are designing your set, obviously you need to think about the type of stage. You need to think about levels. You need to think about your design, whether it's naturalistic, non-naturalistic. You need to then think about colour and symbolism and what those colours symbolise, and do those colours change. You need to think about the materials that the design is constructed from the size, and then the practicality. You may decide to have things move on stage, but look at it from the actor's point of view as well as the audience. Audience obviously is the most important, but you need to think about the actors as well and how they will use your set. So your activity is going to be to actually design a set. Now, obviously, designers make important decisions about stage furniture, props, and you're responsible for creating the atmosphere, showing the location, showing the time, and the characters. So you're going to imagine that you're a set designer for the production of An Inspector Calls, and your task is to produce an artistic design concept for the play. How would you like the stage to look? So you can create this on the computer, or you can do this on paper. This is entirely up to you. You can just send me some pictures. Before we do go, and I'm going to let you go and do the actual task, I want you to make sure it's fully annotated, and I'm going to show you, if you can build a set, and I'm going to show you a lady who actually is a set designer. And I would like you just to spend the next 3 minutes watching this.
You will see the design from concept right through to opening. As a set designer, you will see the design from concept right through to opening night. And you're really the caretaker for that set throughout the whole process. You're the filter visually for everything that happens on that stage. I don't want people to think they need to be architects or builders or have a degree in engineering in order to be a set designer. You don't. You need to have an awareness of space and depth, and you need to be a great storyteller. You need to know how to get people to believe in a space. The process of creating a new set involves lots of collaboration and lots of discussion to begin with. I first approach a brief by talking to the director about how he wants to approach the piece, and then we do lots and lots of research. I look at films, I look at music videos, I look at other people's work, I look at other performances, I research past productions and themes within the piece, I research genre, period, architecture, I go to libraries, I Google, and then I have meetings with the director and we look at how we want to approach the piece, how we want to approach the design. And eventually, fast forwarding, we start producing a scale model. And the scale model is a tool for us to work out how the performers are going to move and interact in the space. Eventually, that model becomes a tool that we send to the builders in order for them to create the set in real life. A set can help to tell the story of an opera or a ballet by either being architecturally naturalistic, so it provides a recognisable backdrop, or it can be poetic and abstract. It can be providing a colour or a mood or a feeling. Essentially, there isn't any difference in how a set can work for opera or ballet or for straight theatre or for an installation. It's really about supporting the artwork that the director is making, and hopefully the atmosphere that you create informs the character as to the world they live in and therefore what kind of person they are. Because if you know the world you live in, you know who you are. If you're interested in a career in set design, a degree is definitely useful, and there are lots of great courses. I trained at Central St Martin's, but I don't think it's essential to have a degree. You've just got to have a lot of exposure to theatre, and the people that I work with on a daily basis come from all different walks of life and have had all sorts of different experiences, and it's those different experiences that create interesting theatre, because everyone brings their own story to the table. So I think as long as you have the basics, you have an understanding of scale and shape and space, I would say you've just got to volunteer in theatre and take every opportunity you can to work in theatre and tell stories. The best advice I can give to somebody designing their own set is to see as much theatre as they can, see as much of other people's work as they can, because the more you see, the more ideas you can feed upon. And ultimately, there's no such thing as a completely original idea. All there is an amalgamation of experiences that you've had that you bring together into one cohesive final scene.
Okay, so your first task then is to actually create a design. So you can make it out of paper, make it out of cardboard, you can draw it, you can design it on the computer. And then your second task that I would like you to do is answer the question from the point of view of a designer and from the point of view as a director for the 9 marker and the 12 marker of how would you use set design to enhance the audience for the play. So those are your 2 activities. I will make sure that the questions are on the next one for you. So you can send everything to me on Showbeat, or you can send things to me on Show My Homework. I am fine with either. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care. And bye-bye.